Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. In this one we're just going to be continuing on filling up this small A5 Canson XL watercolor sketchbook with portraits. My goal for this sketchbook, as I also said in the previous video, is to force myself to draw bigger portraits, which I don't usually do. I usually just draw full figures with a cool outfit, and so the portraits end up super tiny. So that is my goal for this sketchbook, to draw portraits that at least somewhat fill out the page of an A5 sketchbook. And the reference photo I used is just a random actress I found on Pinterest that I thought was pretty and had a unique face. Apparently her name's Carol Kane. I didn't know her already, maybe I should, but it doesn't really matter. We're just using her face in this one. So here I'm just starting out by doing the drawing using color called PV55. It's a pigment that doesn't really have a real name yet, and I haven't seen it in a lot of paint ranges yet. I got mine from Kramer as a pigment, where they call it Quinto Violet, and I guess that's like the only name it has yet. But it's a really nice color. It's almost the same hue as Quinacridone Violet, but it's just a little bit more punchy. So I really like it for that reason. One of my goals for this drawing also was to challenge myself in the color scheme and do a red and purple color scheme, which is usually a combination that I don't really like. And I wanted to try and offset the red and purple using some yellows and yellow greens, brownish greens. So that was also a goal for this drawing. Yet another thing I wanted to do with this portrait was to change up the way I color and get in the color flats. I usually color with very defined borders, and so I often have the problem of the white or the color of the paper peeking through. So this time I wanted to do what I have seen some other people do, especially digitally, just block in the colors a bit more sloppily so that it doesn't really adhere to the borders of the objects, and then correct the borders later on. So that's what I wanted to try and do here. And I started by adding in some quite punchy colors for each object. Like the hair is more yellow than it's gonna end up to be, so because I wanted to dull down these harsh colors later on with some dark brown washes, because I also wanted to try and add these darker washes on top, because I always end up making every base color too light. It's like what you do with watercolor. You always, when you practice a lot with watercolor early on in your artistic journey, you end up making every color too light because you are just too afraid, and watercolor is usually too light. So I wanted to remedy that this time by adding these dark washes on top until the values are as dark as they need to be in order for the values to end up being somewhat realistic. One of my other goals for this drawing was to create a natural transition at the bottom where the subject just kind of dissolves into the white of the page in a cool and splashy and natural seeming way, which is something I've always had a hard time doing, kind of transitioning from the subject to the background or the white of the page in a cool way. So that's what I wanted to try and do here. And that takes quite a lot of conscious effort for me, which I don't know, I think other people just do it without thinking, and that's what makes it look so cool. But for me, it just takes a lot of carefully planned strokes. So here I'm just redefining the drawing a bit, which got lost underneath all those layers, and also defining all of the locks of hair. That was one of the challenges of this drawing, was to capture the bushy curly hair in a way that is not just a totally undefined cloud, but also not in a way that where every single strand is totally defined, so that it ends up looking too detailed, too crowded and ugly, and ends up looking like a bunch of banana leaves or something, like it does when you over define the hair clumps. I think I kind of ended up making it too defined and making it look like a bunch of banana leaves in the end, sadly. That's like a lesson learned from this painting. It's better to not define the hair too much. at least when drawing curly or wavy hair, because I think it's fine or actually good to define every hair strand when drawing straight hair. I think that's like part of the appeal of straight hair, being able to define every clump and design them in an aesthetically pleasing way. It's just the curly wavy hair that is harder to design and draw in an appealing way. At this point I took a picture of the drawing lying flat on the table and then brought it into Clip Studio Paint, just so I could draw the full body drawing over it, because when I just draw a portrait like this and the shoulders just clip off, I always lose track of the form. You know, it's hard to imagine just the correct 3D form of the upper body when you don't have a full body to connect it to. So here I just tried to correct for that and see whether what I had made already was acceptable, and I think it was, so that was good. So here I'm going in with some light opaque skin colors to try and define the face by adding in the lights. Unfortunately the first layer ended up drying a bit too dark from what I wanted, but I ended up being able to correct it with the layers that go on top. So here I'm just adding in some local colors for the eyes and for the lips, and defining the darks of the face, the lashes and the brows with some raw umber mostly. It's always so satisfying to put in those whites of the eyes when you build in the face with a darker wash. It really makes the face come together and all of the values fit better together when you have the lightest value put in. I had some trouble getting the shape of the philtrum right. That's an area of the face and facial anatomy that I really have to work on. I tried to define it solely with the lights this time, and first off it ended up looking strange, but I think I saved it somewhat so it's acceptable in the end. I used to never add it because it's an area of the face that has a similar nature to the nasolabial fold. You know, you have to be really careful or just not add it at all, because it will quickly look very strange and very overdone in a drawing, and it will make your character look unattractive very easily if you add it and overdo it. But it's still an area where I need some practice and improvement. So I'm just adding in the lights of the jacket, which is very satisfying with a red gouache made from Jackson's own pigment range. Their cadmium red light, which it's not the lightest cadmium red light in the world, it's like a medium red. So I thought it was good for the lights of this jacket. And now for one of the hardest bits of this painting, which is trying to define all of the clumps of hair in a way that looks aesthetic and that has a pleasing composition without being too crowded and messy and not making sense in a 3D world, which I don't know if I succeeded. I tried. It's so hard to draw hair in a way, you know, that is like not too defined or too undefined, and that makes sense in a real world. It's one of those things that I haven't quite figured out how to do yet. I think there are like two schools of drawing hair. One where you just define it very little, do some quick oil painty strokes, and somehow it ends up looking right, but in an undefined way. And then there's the cartoony way where you just define everything and try and make it really designed, very pleasing, having a pleasing composition. And I'm a little bit undecided as to which of those two schools of hair drawing I belong to. So this one I just tried doing the cartoony way, where you just define everything as well as you can. I don't know if I like it. I have yet to decide on that. choose to just define every clump of hair, you also kind of have to follow through and do all of the highlights on all of the clumps of hair. At least that's my theory so far. And yeah, just I always end up overdoing the hair highlights, and I don't know, I have a hard time deciding where to put the hair highlights and where not to put them when you just define every clump of hair, because every ounce of logic in me says that when you define every hair clump, you have to also put a highlight on every hair clump, but it ends up looking messy and overdone and crowded with too much detail. So that's a thing I have to figure out in the future, how to not make it look overly crowded. So yeah, that's the final result of this drawing. I'm quite pleased with it. I like some bits of it and some I don't. I like the face, I like the color scheme, I like how the light on the jacket turned out. Not so much the hair. So yeah, there's some stuff to improve on, but also some improvement to be happy about. But overall, I'm quite pleased with how this drawing turned out. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye!